All right guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm back up here at Grafton Archery and Outdoors here in China Grove, North Carolina, and I am reviewing the Bowtech Carbon One. So Bowtech Carbon One, if you guys have watched stuff in my videos in the past, I'm not a huge fan of carbon bows, but that does not mean that this is not a great bow and an awesome bow to shoot. Me personally, in North Carolina, we just don't get those bitter cold weathers, and the weight savings that you're gonna get with a carbon bow for me feels a little negligible because personally, I stack a bunch of weight on my bow. I run a quiver with all my arrows, I run front bar, back bars, and I'm just not too concerned about weight. But carbon does offer a different feeling than aluminum, and it is a nice feeling when you shoot the bow. It does have a nice feel to it, and when it's cold out, yes, this thing is not gonna transfer as much cold from the riser to your hand. It takes longer for carbon to get cold, so it always feels a little warmer to the touch. If that's a selling point for you, then you're gonna like this carbon bow. Let's run over the specs of this Bowtech Carbon One. This bow comes in at 30 inches axle to axle with draw lengths from 25.5 to 30.5 inches. It comes in weights of 50, 60, and 70 pounds. The IBO, or the feet per second on this bow, is 335 feet per second, so it's not the fastest bows on the market, but it's also not one of the slowest bows on the market. This bow comes in with a brace height of 6.63 inches. For you fraction guys, it is 6 5/8 inches. And the raw weight on this bow is 4.5 pounds. And to be honest with you, that is probably the stat of all of those that I've listed that I am the least impressed about with these Bowtech Carbon One. For a carbon bow, most of the selling point for carbon bows is that they're a little lighter, and the fact that this comes in at 4.5 pounds and there are aluminum bows in the same axle to axle range that weigh less than this, come on. So really the selling point on this is just the way carbon feels. It is not a light thing. So this bow is not entirely the lightest thing on the market. Just like with other bows that Bowtech has in their lineup, this Carbon One also has the deadlock cam technology. With the simple unlocking of the drive rod here, you can actually affect the cam lean of this by moving the cam itself in between the limb pockets. And how you do that, there's actually a worm gear in this axle. So when you twist it, it will actually change the location of the cam itself between the limbs, which will affect your lead, which will help you get this bow tuned without the need of a bow press. I really do like that from Bowtech and some other companies that are introducing technology like that, where you can tune your bow without having to have a whole shim pack or stick it in a bow press every time. It makes it simple for someone like myself who likes to tinker with their stuff at home. Maybe you live really far away from an archery shop and you don't have the 4 or 5 hours round trip to drive to get that bow tuned. And honestly, I think it helps the shop guys out a lot too at the pro shops, because they can help a customer out a lot faster and they can make that experience at the pro shop a lot more enjoyable, where they can get you in front of the paper tuning and just sit there and tune it without having to go to the press every single time and worry about little tiny increments on shims or top hats or whatever the system that they're using for that bow. So being able to adjust this on the fly, I think is really cool. Some of the other features that they have that are on other Bowtech lines is they have these interchangeable grips. So if you don't like the way this grip feels, maybe you like something that's a little bit more high-wristed, you can actually pop this grip off and replace it with one that is a little bit more high-wristed. I think Bowtech also offers these in different colors, or there's other third-party people. I know Tim Gillingham makes some grips for Bowtechs, so you can really customize this. If you want this to match your strings, I'm sure you could do it. There's a lot of people out there 3D printing stuff now, so pretty much anything is possible. If you're going to change the draw weight by turning the tiller bolt here, you're going to want to loosen the set screw, adjust it, and then when you get it to where you want, crank it back down before you shoot an arrow, because if this is locked down and you back this bolt out maybe a turn and the limb pocket doesn't sit up against that bolt, when you go to shoot, you could stress the limbs out, crack them, damage your bow, and I do not recommend that. So someone at a pro shop will be able to do that for you. So pay attention. Enough talking about it. Let's get to shooting this bow. This bow also is set, it has the adjustable modules on this where you can go from the performance setting to the comfort setting. This is currently set on comfort, and I feel for someone who's maybe gonna be bow hunting, comfort's where you're gonna wanna be. On the comfort setting, you have a little higher of a let-off percentage. It's about 87%. And when you flip it to the performance mod setting, You're going to lose a little bit of let off, but you're gonna increase your feet per second on your arrow by maybe about 6 to 10, depending on your draw length, the cam efficiency at that draw length, your arrow weight, etc. But if you're looking for a few more feet per second out of this bow and you really love the way this feels and you really just want that 2 or 3 more feet, you could flip this over to the performance setting and be able to get that. But honestly, shooting this in the comfort setting, these Bowtechs, just top to bottom, from their target bow, SS34, all the way down to this, these things have just been an absolute dream to shoot, a dream to draw, because they have some of the smoothest drawing mods on the market. They might sacrifice a little bit of speed to get there, but these things are absolutely awesome to shoot. If you're someone who likes to shoot a lot and wants something comfortable, these mods or these cams are right up that alley. So let's get to shoot a few arrows through this thing. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. We'll talk a little bit more about this bow, and then we'll pull out the chronograph and go over some arrow speed tests with some real world hunting arrows, because IBO speed doesn't really do anything for us. It's how fast can you push that hunting arrow. That's what we're looking for. So we're gonna get some real world arrow tests out of this, but enough talking, let's get to shooting. All right, here we go. This Bowtech Carbon One. This thing is set at 29.5 inches, 70 pounds, and this thing's awesome to shoot. Draw cycle, it's just so smooth. The axle to axle length being 30 inches is, I feel a little scrunched down on the string because of my draw length and my wingspan. It's not a bad thing, but me personally, after shooting a target bow for a little bit, I like something a little more axle to axle length. The dump into the valley is just, it's way nicer than some of the other bows on the market. The bow doesn't have a lot of vibration after the shot. Carbon just dampens differently than aluminum does. Carbon's, to me, always had a little bit more of a snap, and then it's gone, instead of just like a low thud or a low dissipating vibration. And that's not a bad thing. Once the arrow's gone, I don't really care what the bow does particularly, as long as it's not, you know, diving all over the place. But the bow itself, it feels good. I'm just not a huge fan of carbon, but that doesn't mean this isn't a great bow. Wants to hold, it doesn't want to lean all over the place, even if I move it. Wants to come back to center. Anything after the shot, it just kind of like the bow snaps, jumps forward, and then it just wants to lean just a little bit. But once you put a stabilizer on that and maybe 2-3 ounces up front, it's gonna kill all that. This bow is not a speed bow particularly. It is 335 feet per second, but that is definitely nothing to slouch at. The Bowtech SS34 that I reviewed last week, that bow drew really smooth, and it had some pretty decent numbers for the weights of these arrows that I would consider normal hunting weights, between that like 450 and 500 range. So let's get some arrows out of this Bowtech Carbon One. We have the 440 grain arrow. (282 feet per second), really good. The draw cycle on this is really good. Bowtech definitely did a lot of work and made these bows really comfortable to shoot this year. 507 grains. (262 feet per second) and 561 grains. 251 feet per second. So just like that Bowtech SS34, not exactly a screamer, but it is really comfortable to draw this bow back. It has a really nice back wall. Just the entire draw cycle on this is actually really nice. All right, as you guys can see, this Bowtech Carbon One, not exactly the fastest bow in the market, but I think for what it lacks in overall speed, it clearly makes up for in comfort and draw cycle of this bow. This thing is absolutely just a pleasure to shoot. It feels really good. The aftershot is good. Just Overall, this is a really good bow. I'm just not a huge fan of carbon, and I feel like the only knock that you can have on this bow is for being a carbon bow, it is a little bit heavy compared to other carbon bows in the market, because if we're gonna compare apples to apples, it's probably the heaviest carbon bow that's on the market. And selling point for me for carbon has always been light. This is not exactly the lightest bow, but from a performance standpoint, this bow is well within the margins of pushing an arrow fast enough. The draw cycle is really nice. You have a lot of adjustability in these with the deadlock cam system where you can tune on it yourself. You can change the grips out. You can change a lot of things on this bow to make it what you want it to be. So if you guys are interested in coming shooting one of these Bowtech Carbon Ones, come up to Grafton Archery and Outdoors here up in China Grove, North Carolina. Come see Colin and the guys, they'll get you set up. And until next time, guys, if you like this video, hit that like button down below. And if you want to see more videos like this one, hit that subscribe button down below. We'll catch you guys on another video.